Hi friends, welcome to this class. So we're going to paint this porcelain cup. Now this is my test piece. This is the sketch for this class. You can download a sketch right below the post. I'm going to use my rigger brush. This is the brush I dedicated for masking fluid. As long as I keep cleaning it right after, I'll be okay. And you can see I've used it many times and it's still fine. So I'm going to use Raczynska's masking. I like it, but you gotta always remember, if you leave masking fluid in your paper for longer than, I don't even know if it's 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, after some time the masking does not come off, this masking. I never had problem with like Winsor Newton masking fluid, but with this one, maybe because I don't know, it's water-based, maybe there's just something about it, it just gets really stuck inside the paper. So I'm gonna actually use it, apply it right here, because I want to separate the area from the coffee here. So right in here. I did it really fast with my test piece. Here, I just want to make sure you can see all of this where I'm applying the masking. It's hard to see it, but I hope that color, the blue color, is kind of visible here. Now, I'm just gonna dry brush through here a little bit. So I'm actually gonna remove some of the masking just to give it that dry brushing effect. Some here, I'm just looking at the reference. Whenever I see those highlights. Now more of that masking, and you know what I also do is I actually dip my brush in water just so I can actually dilute that masking even more. I do this often so the masking dries faster, but also I just don't want like thick. It's easier to create like finer lines whenever you paint whiskers or hair if you dilute that masking with water. Now there's some over here that highlight, and then I'm just gonna exaggerate this one right here. I don't need that much highlight, like the highlights, but it does look kind of pretty in my test piece. So there's some highlight in the coffee, but the coffee has to be painted like without masking because it will be a hard edge. Whenever you remove masking, and this is the string by the way, you have a hard edge, so you just have to remember that, and that's why not always it's a good idea to use masking. Sometimes lifting is better, is a better option. This is just a string, so it depends how much you want to cover with masking. Now with my test piece, I didn't use the masking everywhere. Maybe I'll use for this one, and well, I guess all of this the string that I can see. There you go, there's a little piece here. And I also used masking here, and that worked out pretty well. And this is more like dry brushing now because I don't have much of that masking left. Now I'm dipping my brush in water again, and let's say I just want a little bit here maybe. And then I'm looking at my reference. I kind of added here too. It's kind of like dry brushing almost. I added there, and then I added a little bit here. I really like the test piece. That's why I'm kind of trying to recreate some of the areas wherever I applied the masking. I like those highlights. So the highlights there, and now I'm getting confused. So this is the part there, and this should be part. I actually made a little mistake with the way I was drawing the plate, but it doesn't matter in the long run. Like once we start applying colors, it becomes easier. It's like you're mapping the areas with the where you have the highlights, and then you go for the lightest tones and the mid-tones, and everything becomes more clear. As long as I have this highlight, that will remind me that's where I wanted that rim to be, and then the masking fluid. So I think that's it. You know what? I also did this kind of like I dry brushed over the snowy areas. Not enough, but here I definitely added more. So I'm just getting rid of like the excess of that masking from my brush. And you do need to clean your brush after this. All right, I'm gonna clean the brush, and by the time I'm back, this will be dry, and I'll be able to start wetting the paper. All right, my friends, let's begin wetting the paper. I want you to grab a comfortable brush. I have this long quill size 2, my Songbird brush, and I am going to start wetting. We're going to wet the inside of the cup. Now I am looking at the reference. I'm going to first grab some of this imidazolone yellow here, moving some of my, this is a yellow ochre here. It all dried out already, which is crazy how fast it dried. So I'm just grabbing a little more water, and there's my quinacridone red. And I also need a little bit of blue. There you go, something like this. And I'm just gonna go for this area right here. I actually have to move my test piece away. It drives me crazy sometimes because if I like my test piece, I'm gonna try to match too much. So I don't wanna go that route because it distracts me. So this is yellow, blue, red. And I'm going like underneath the rim. It feels like the right side, or the left side, I'm sorry, is a little more like blue-gray. So I'm just gonna add some more of that here. And then all this. Now, shade of gray can be easily recreated with the yellow, blue, red. And I have a class about this. So if you've never done anything like this before, then I suggest to take that class first, just so you feel comfortable with mixing the colors, because this is just the yellow, red, and I'm moving blue over here. So it's a yellow, blue, red. You don't want to overly mix the colors. You just want to keep grabbing the colors. Let these colors to blend on the paper, because if you try to create like a new shade, well, it's just colors are gonna start looking really muddy, and that's not what we're going for. Muddy. But the bottom part of the cup, it looks like, is a little darker, and then all this part more yellowish. So now I'm grabbing more of the yellows plus red on the tip of my brush. Well, here's another thing. You also want to make sure like you paint with the tip of your brush. So it's like you're not just focusing on one area. You have to cruise around, because some areas will dry so much faster than the other areas. And then this is just more of the blue here, just like we see. And then I can't forget the area underneath here. And I also have to think about the cinnamon sticks, right? I'm gonna grab quickly like a heavy cream-like ratio. So I am increasing the amount, or decreasing the amount of water in my brush. Just like I see like some reflections. I don't want to forget about that either. And then maybe over here, something like that. It's a plate, right? So coffee. So this is just the yellow with the red. And I also want now yellow ochre as well, because this has a rim. Doesn't mean I have to paint it now. I mean, technically, like, we can paint it wet on dry, but I want to give the same kind of feel like in my test piece. And then I'm grabbing a little bit of burnt sienna. Not that I really need it. Maybe some more red. It would be just nice to create this rim. It should be like richer and darker on the bottom and more yellowish on top, just FYI. And then for this coffee, and I do want to show that yellow that we started with, because that looked really nice. I actually, in my test piece, I didn't make it on time, and I added it like way too late. And here's some blue. This is phthalo blue. Thought I was gonna grab cobalt blue, but I grabbed phthalo blue. Now somewhere here is that highlight. I can always lift, but I do need to create like different shade of that color blend. It can't be just the brown. I need blue as well. So blue more on the bottom here. And then that highlight, well, I'll just have to lift because it's too late. And then this should be a little darker. First of all, keep an eye on the coffee thing, because maybe you need to lift a little bit. This is fine actually for me. What I'm gonna do is grab some of the red, or burnt sienna first. I have quinacridone red and pearl red. And then this is like halfway, like this is like damp, okay? So normally, like if I was painting a cat or something, I wouldn't do it, but this is the decoration over the cup, and actually it looks really pretty. This is yellow, burnt sienna and quinacridone red. I want to show you my test piece. I painted it at the same time, like the same timing. So more like a half and half like ratio, and even more diluted paint with water. So where do I have these leaves? It's like there's a leaf here, there's a leaf there. I don't need to recreate everything exactly the same. Let's grab the imidazzolong yellow. I'm grabbing some of the burnt sienna there. This needs to be a little more yellowish actually. More of that imidazzolong yellow. So thank you so much for your time. Please let me know if you have any questions. Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. So I just started a series on Patreon. It's called 12 Days of Christmas. This is where I share classes and 12 different cards. So you'll get to create Christmas cards for your family and friends. And this series is only available on Patreon. So it's www.patreon.com/MariaMorjane. If you feel like colors are turning into green, because that can happen, blue plus yellow turns into green, then clean your brush quickly and start over, like grabbing the colors again on your brush. So more of that phthalo blue, and as you see, I'm not going all the way to the end here, to the edge of the snowman. I'm leaving this part as light as I can. One thing I should have done, and it's too late for me, maybe it's not late for you, is to add a little more to that shadow here. You know, it's still wet. Might as well add a little bit. It's just the indigo. So, for example here, whatever you can see shadows, when you take a look at these marshmallows, you will notice that they are not like perfectly white. What's reflecting over it is actually the chocolate, the color of the chocolate, the cocoa powder, or colors from the mug. So here we do want the highlights, so we definitely don't want to lose the highlights. So here's this version from the class, and there's my test piece. I painted this test piece so much faster, and I actually like this one better. Along the sketch line on the inside, so you have more highlights. For the red part, we're gonna paint this once everything dries, and then we're gonna focus on re-wetting just this section here above the house, and we're gonna start working with the reds. I'm gonna use quinacridone red, pearl red, and we're gonna get closer toward the house. And then here, this is gonna be the area that we're gonna keep as light as possible, just with this nice glowy yellow. Now, if for some reason you lost some highlights, remember you have a different brush, smaller brush, so you can use it to lift a little bit. I suggest to really wipe it on a towel if you need to lift. And let's say we want to add some highlight here on top of the neck area right there. This is a damp brush. You clean your brush, wipe it on a towel, and then you lift the colors. And then you can add gold over here as well, like in the background. I'm good with it. Oh, actually, you know what? These are the examples of these trees, what they look like. So the first wash
is very light, and this is the brush that I am using. This is actually a full class that's available on Patreon. So it's important to blend your colors on the paper instead of your palette, so you can see the separation of colors, so that blue has different shades, so it's not just cobalt blue, or let's say you mixed the colors perfectly on a palette. There's no point for that because we're painting with watercolors. Now use the pointy part again of the brush, the tip of your brush, as you keep moving down, and the ratio between water and paint should be somewhere between water to milk-like ratio, and I'd say even go with water, something that feels like water, so way more diluted paint with water. And then you just keep going, and you can use a rigger brush as well, and that'll help you, like maybe with the treetops, to create some of the thinner branches. And then you can use darker shades such as Van Dyke Brown, Indigo, to add these trunks, and you want to do that wet on wet. So when we first started painting these trees, it was wet on dry, but the layer is still wet, and we're applying these darks now. This is like indigo basically, wet on wet. So it changed from wet on dry to wet on wet because we were adding more color on top of it, and you're only adding those darks towards like the areas where you have shadows and you see a little bit of those branches. Now once you're done applying colors, you actually want to place your card like so it stands up, so the paint kind of keeps moving down a bit, and in between you can add some water, for example, to create slight blooms, tiny blooms. That's when you want that paint to drip down a little bit more for that effect. But you'll find more information and you'll get to paint the entire card in my Patreon school. So there will be more cards to paint. This is just day one, and day one is really detailed. So it's a full real-time video where I talk in real time as I'm painting. So I hope to see you on Patreon. Thank you so much.